So today I'm sorting out Brewster's feet. Now if you've ever had chickens, you probably have come across a little bit of scaly leg where the mites on their legs build up. I know. And they start to... Let me pick you up so I can show you. And they start to push the scales out, and you can see it's got quite bad on this foot. So all I do is I fill a sink with lukewarm water, and I just sit him in it for a little bit because it does seem to ease his feet quite considerably. I can take any excess poo off his nails. Okay, go back in there and sit in that for a while. And then I just use Sudocrem. And I literally, what it does is you smother it over the scales and it basically suffocates the lice. Now the scales won't go back to normal instantly. So even if you've got rid of the lice and reduced the infestation, the scales will continue to look pretty horrible for a while. It's okay. And you'll see they'll continue to look kind of puffed up and not very nice. But I keep doing it, and then once they shed these leg scales, they'll come back in. Oh, so great. They'll come back in as normal. So that is today's job. We're dealing with Brewster's legs, aren't we, boy? So these are some of my hardy annuals. These are cornflowers, and they're called hardy annuals because you can actually sow them the year before. So I've sowed them in autumn 2017, and they're going to flower in 2018. And by doing this, you get some early flowers next year. So I will sow more cornflowers in spring, and then I'll get sort of 2 successions. So I've got my cornflowers, and my larkspur have just started to come through. You can just see them coming through. They're still outside. They're not. I haven't brought them in yet. These are some marigolds as well. Now the slugs did get to these, and you can see here they nibbled them off right at the stem. So these 2 are completely dead. But there's some more coming up, and then I've got 2 more pots, but nothing yet. Now they were stood in this. And you don't want to waterlog your seeds, so I've just taken them out for now, just to sit here and dry off a little bit. So you don't want them sat waterlogged. And then if it gets really, really cold and these haven't sprouted at all, I will put them into the conservatory, just where there's a little bit of protection from the worst cold. But aren't plants great? Because I've just noticed as well, my lemon verbena that I cut back, obviously has decided it's still mild enough to grow, and it's put all these little buds out. So that's great as well. So I'm really happy because it was getting very, very leggy. So I left a few strands on, obviously with some leaves, to feed the plant, but it's really come up lovely, so it's great. Well, just to prove to you that we don't know what the weather's doing, but then plants don't know what the weather's doing either, is that it's November, and I've already got miniature narcissi coming up. So these are both in pots. So this pot is coming up, and this pot is coming up, so they really don't know. And I was actually up in London the other day walking through the streets, and I saw someone who had their daffs maybe up to here already, because they just don't know what they're doing. Now I have planted those narcissi earlier on in the year, so the white ones, and they're in these 2 pots. And you can see that these haven't come up yet, and that's because they've just been planted in there. They're still getting established. And when you put your bulbs in the autumn, they do take advantage of that warmer soil, and they do start to grow a little root. So these will be settling themselves into the pots and rooting, ready for producing leaves in the proper spring. But these ones, which have just been flung into a pot and left in the corner because, you know, they're yellow daffodils, and you know how I feel about yellow daffodils, but they seem to have decided it's time to come up and flower. So a little bit of a budgie update. There is Sunny. She has 4 eggs now, and she's been happily incubating them. So it's difficult to know the exact hatch date because they hatch after 21 days. So they take the same length of time as chickens, but they lay an egg every other day, and so they often don't start incubating on the first one because they want to hatch out the eggs at as near as possible to each other, so that they don't have chicks all of different ages. But she's doing well. I've not had any issues with Venus, and in fact both Io and Pluto have been really, really good. And Pluto has been inside the nest box with Venus, keeping her occupied. So there are no signs of eggs from Venus yet, but I'm still hoping that we might get somewhere. And Io, meanwhile, has been very attentive to Sunny, haven't you, boy? So yeah, so we're probably due chicks early in December, around December 3rd, December 4th. So I'll keep you updated. Well, very happily, I've just discovered that I have a baby passion flower. So this passion flower comes from the main plant here. I don't know if there's any flowers still out, are there? Yes, there is actually one here, look. So it's continuing to flower, which is great. The one thing I do find about passion flowers in this temperate climate is they last a couple of years and then they tend to die off. So I'm really, really happy when I find self-seeded ones. So what I do is when they drop their seed cases, which are this bright orange thing, I tend to leave them on the ground so that they can break open and seed themselves and turn into baby plants. And then actually there's actually a couple there, there's 2 stems. And then what happens is if this one does die off, which they do tend to seem to do after 3 or 4 years, they just get really, really woody and then they die. Then I've got replacement plants, which is no bad thing. And of course also, this may be a slightly hybridized version as well, so you might even end up breeding your own variety. Well folks, I am up at the farm and I'm doing some more work on the pond restoration project, but I'm realising that perhaps this is not going to take 1 season but many, because I've just started to cut back brambles. So here's my bramble hedge, all here, this is all bramble hedge, and this is taking me an hour. Look how little it is compared with the rest. And look how thick. I thought this bramble hedge was just a little bit, you know, a metre thick. Look. And there's still loads through there. So I don't think this is going to be a 1 season job. I think this is going to be a much longer job than I originally anticipated, because this pond is huge. But you know, I'm going to keep snipping and I'm going to get through eventually. Well, it's rather quiet and happy in the coop today. I've given them the last of the windfall apples. I could have made stewed apple with them, but I'm sick of the sight. So I thought the chickens would probably enjoy them, and they have. They've given them a good old peck, as you can see from this one down here. The other stuff that has been saving my life in this poultry yard is what you can see on the floor, kind of a woody chip thing. That is that compacted horse bedding, the Verdo that I've shown you before. And I just threw some of that down because it was just getting horrible in here, and it's been a saviour. And I'm going to use it more often because it's been really, really wonderful for kind of absorbing stuff, poop, water, all sorts of things. And we're still really, really lucky over here. We haven't had any avian flu outbreaks yet, so the hens are happily still out, sitting around in their tortoise and throwing out all of their dusting stuff, their dust bathing stuff. But generally everybody's having quite a good day.